and charming too. I mean, if we make laddus, for me it's always the eating, you know. But I know people who would, I know Kala would want the shape and the size also to be perfect. So we want our food to be also, so we open the dish and we want it to look as good as it tastes, you know. And I always have this complaint at home, why are you commenting before? Eat and then tell me how it is. Because it's about the eating, no, it's about the looks too. So, you know, that's how we want everything to be, and we are, I think more than any other creatures, we are born with this sense of aesthetics, because even a child who's a few months old, you know, if you take him to a balloon wala, so most of the time they are attracted to red, and they are not going to be quiet until they get the red one. Now, what does he know? But he knows that that is the most attractive. So we are all born with this sense of beauty which grows with age, with exposure. And if we have opportunities to perhaps make ourselves more sophisticated, then I suppose we evolve into having better taste in every aspect of our lives. If we travel to rural areas also, we see even forest dwellers, they have such a fantastic sense of beauty. That is what Varli art and all that.
Huts are decorated.
Yeah, huts are like hair.
Even in Kanchi, all that mirror work on the huts.
I always wonder how, I don't think whether I don't know whether I comb my hair even once in a day properly, but my maids walk in any time of the day, nicely combed hair and flowers in their hair. And I always appreciate, and they will rush back, puja hai aaj. Dadar jana hai phool khareedne. So it's not just about religion, but it's about beauty, it's about decorating your house and
That rangoli,
Yes.
the rangoli, what they spend on doing that.
Saris that they wear.
sarees, exactly. So they also have their own sense of beauty, and then the opportunity to grow, if you have, then that exposure will obviously take you far. Okay, now I mean I was telling Lakshmi also that Steve Jobs, you know, I think he took electronic devices to another level. Totally, I'm a complete iPhone fan. I know people have wondered, you know, because otherwise we are quite conservative if we are into literature. But I think we are a little conservative. But people say, don't give me, you know, even young people say, I want to read this book, you know, the paper book, and I am very much into e-books. So people are a little surprised because I appreciate those electronic devices, and I feel Steve Jobs, who was very fastidious, total perfectionist, he had to see that that product looked perfect, and he wouldn't be satisfied till he reached that level. And I think he did make the world go a little crazy with his electronic products.
That push and shove, we can't touch the guy.
Yes, yes, yes.
You have to push the button. He's the one who
And
perfectly
the sleekness with which you want this product.
I mean, every kind of phone, if you see and if you compare it with the looks of an iPhone, I don't think you can.
The best part is the apple with the white.
White.
That's I think the most
simple and
the most attractive. Yeah.
For the best, it has the association, no? After knowledge and all we have.
Okay, so we'll come down to language now.
Yeah, language aesthetics is your topic.
Yes,
So
yes.
we go all over the
Yeah.
place and we go up.
So we are sufficiently warmed up, Rashu.
Yeah.
Aesthetics. Now we go into language.
Okay, now aesthetics in language. There is the spoken word and the written word, and I think we all know that the spoken word came before the written word. I mean, did poetry happen before prose?
Yes, yes,
You would know.
absolutely.
Really,
Poetry happened before prose. It's, you know, when I heard it also for the first time, see, we have become very prosaic over the centuries. The thing is that when I studied as a student, and when I was told that poetry happened before prose, I was completely blown. How is it possible? Because it's a natural progression that you first learn to write, and then correct prose, and then poetry. But no. See, I think, Lakshmi, you can also correct me if I'm wrong.
song happened before.
Song, of course.
So the song and then the melody.
Okay, now she's giving me a new perspective. I was going to say something completely different, but I think this is very acceptable.
And the song expressing your joy.
Yes.
Only the person was happy will sing. So
That's
It's
why
spontaneous.
yeah, I think, I feel language happened.
Also, a language is all about sounds, and music and
Yeah,
sound
we
are
coming to
wired
that.
in.
We are coming to that.
Okay,
We
sorry.
are coming to that. I think people were not first educated in the written word. So all over the world, including India, of course, first India, then the world, we began. There was a minuscule minority which learned how to write. Reading everybody did. Writing few did. And then I think those were so highly educated that we see my logic is right. They ended up writing only poetry. But it happened in the West too. I think we
This is
did.
true, absolutely true in the ancient Indian tradition too. Vedic, everything was in verse form.
Yes.
Everything was in verse form.
But it came to be written later. First it was spoken only.
So the
So it's a very
Vedic
complicated
obviously did
process.
With the word,
learning.
the word for Vedas is Shruti.
Ah.
And Shruti literally means that which is heard.
Heard,
And
yes.
it was always heard.
Yes.
Never read.
Yeah, and the way I think in India we found a wonderful way of seeing that it got transferred because we were so clear about how it needs to be pronounced. That's why it went from generation to generation without any mistake in what we say kana matra, So poetry came first. Prose accidentally happened through journalism. They used to send some press releases and all. So it just accidentally happened. Otherwise, even abroad, even in the West, it was Chaucer and Shakespeare. They were writing only verse. The drama was verse.
Drama.
Everything was verse. And then, even that is a very funny progression. They first started writing, letters were written in prose in the West. And then suddenly, somebody wanted to write a letter, write a story through letters. So the first story that can be called a novel is written in letter form. It's only letters coming and going, and that's how the story unfolds. That's why we say man of letters, because somebody who can write letters is an educated man. And then the novel form progressed, and I think Jane Austen was the flowering for the first time and maybe for the last, because I'm a huge fan of it. So that's how language progressed from poetry. There was, but she was like, there was Adipati Pamela, no? The writer of
That's Richardson.
Richardson.
Actually,
Samuel
as
Richardson.
ma'am said, epistolary novels, the novels through letters, that's what made novel as a form popular.
Yeah.
And then obviously.
Yeah. When people liked that way, then we started writing it as a narrative. I think it's
Knowledge was a tool.
yeah.
Tobias
I
novel.
think telling as a story in prose was common, but writing poetry happened. So writing prose happened later.
Sonnet is also verse.
It's as late as 18th century.
18th century.
So
yeah,
late.
as late as 18th century. Okay, can we just find answers to what is the common factor between music and speech? Lowest common denominator.
Music is pleasing to the eye.
No. The common one.
Sound.
Perfect. Sound. Absolutely. Sound becomes continuous sound is music, and sound becomes syllable, and syllable becomes word, and word becomes sentence, and that's the. But there is rhythm and a sense of music in language too. That's how those who speak any language well, we want to listen to them. I mean, once upon a time when we were children, it was always Dilip Kumar Guru.
Now Amitabh Bachchan.
Yeah.
Is something about his speech.
Yeah.
Whether
It's a cultured voice, no? It's a cultured. It applies to every language. I mean, nowadays I'm listening to a lot of Marathi speaking people on YouTube and all, and I'm just marveling at the Marathi because I'm a Maharashtrian. And Hindi, I just love the Hindi of the north. I love to listen to even Lalu once upon a time. You know, yeah, because he became some kind of a joker figure, but he wasn't. And the way the language flows, you know, and in their own mother tongue, they are so supreme, you know, and so expressive that you couldn't help listening to them. So it's any language basically.
When they speak, the images just strike so beautifully. So that's why it just stays the language.
Just like the
stays so
flow.
Are some languages more aesthetic than the others? And Urdu is very
Could be,
aesthetic.
could be.
I feel.
Could be, but I think that would again be a personal experience.
Yeah.
You know, but because also I
No,
know,
but you have to somewhere generalize.
yeah.
Now see, Bengali is very
Very
sweet,
sweet,
for the
yes.
ears.
The sure
I
sound.
mean, it's
I
again
tell you
for
why.
sweet.
We can find out why also. Like for example, Marathi. I can tell you though I love my mother tongue. See, we are a very hardy people. It's a very rocky region. The r sound is very pronounced in Marathi. So it's not very pleasing. But if you go into the Marathwada region and all, na, it's very sweet. So when I heard their dialect, I said, wow, Marathi is sweet.
All the dialects have that effect, I
Yeah.
guess. All the dialects have that effect.
Hey, hi. Hi. You turned up. Yeah, lovely. She's my school friend, Anjali. Hello. Hello.
Please come.
Yeah, absolutely. She's sitting there.
Oh, she's right.
So wrong. That's really nice.
Like you are saying, are some languages more aesthetic than the others, or there's no such thing? It's only personal.
It's a personal thing, I think. But I mean, yeah, you can make, and I think we can come down to bhai, because I'm going to go to that.
But what you
Because
said is really important. Like certain words,
certain sounds are
sounds are less pleasing on your ear. So therefore you automatically say like Bengali is voice very soft.
sure is a very sweet sound.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sure in Bengal.
Yeah.
So I think that is why. And there's a lot of r in Marathi, so it sounds harsh. But can't pronounce. Yeah, yeah.
And in Telugu, every word ends with a vowel. You know that?
Yes.
There's no Ram, Ramudu, they will say.
Ah.
You know, everything is like Italian, I believe, is like that.
Yeah.
Everything ends with a, you won't even say husband, they'll say husbandu. Like that, you know. There's nothing, everything
That's
ends with a vowel. Yeah.
That's because all nominative cases are like Ramudu, Ramudu. So do, move, do. So they end all nominative cases and with
All
do,
ending
move,
with a
do.
vowel. Because there's no,
Do is not a vowel, right?
no, I know.
J is not a vowel.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's
So
always a
the
vowel.
nominative cases are like that here.
Every word ends with a
Okay. I think language happened through imitation. I think we can safely say that. But there is definitely, and 100%, there is a connection between us as a species and the effect that a particular sound has on our minds. It could be intense or less intense for different people, but the effect is going to be in that same continuum. For example, the m sound is the label mama or mother begins with an M all over the world. All over the world. I mean, most of, except for IE Marathi,
Marathi.
but that also earlier on it used to be Mate. Mai or Mate. It is Mai in many parts of Maharashtra, and it is Mate also when we were more Sanskritized. So ma sound has definitely some association with even the way the cow moves, no? It's always the ma sound,
Yeah.
you know. So that ma sound has definitely a connection, and there are so many sounds are like that. That's why, you know, we make a big thing about learning languages in today's day and age. But if we just go by instinct, no, and if we just, without self-consciousness like a child, if we travel anywhere, like they did earlier, they didn't use translators now. I think people would have picked up, that time people would pick up, now also we can. It's just that we have unnecessarily systematized everything. You know, so I have an exam and I have to write this. So what you know exam system has kind of ruined, but you can pick up language because words in every language sound what they mean. Okay? And they reveal their meaning. You just have to give it a little bit of thought. I mean, here I think it's a much more adult and sophisticated audience, but I always tell my students, just guess what the meaning of this word is quickly. Don't think. So I'm a very lackadaisical person. And students, 11th, 12th, they are very young, but they all guess lazy. Because that connection, without knowing the meaning, just happens because the word sounds. Of course, as language evolved, somewhere that distortion has happened. Like for example, a word like complacent sounds like complaint, but it's not. It's exactly the opposite. So that has happened over time. But originally when languages were formed, obviously they had some anchor in the way we see sound. I mean, the world also began with sound, they say, oh. So, okay, I have a wonderful list of Marathi onomatopoeic words. I won't even have to tell you all the meaning, even if you are not Maharashtrians. I just collected them. Huh? Okay. For example, the Puran Poli is very luslushit. We don't have to know what the meaning is. कांद्याची भाजी कुरकुरीत झाली आहेत. So it's obvious what the meaning is. करंजी खुसखुशीत आहे. Marathi has lots of onomatopoeic words. Then नीट चाल, जमीन भुसभुशीत आहे. Walk carefully. That ground is a little भुसभुशीत.
I think all Indian languages have that.
Yes.
Janta Pradhan.
Yes.
That is like, Dhire, Thoda.
I have some Hindi words also.
All
One of the
Indian languages
complaints
have
about
it.
Indians using English, especially when you go abroad, is why do Indians use the same word twice? Come. Go. They
No, different. I just used it. Different people.
It's not the way we think. Yes, literally, yeah.
We were watching The Crown.
The crown.
Hello, hi.
Okay, Brinda Karat's कुंकू खूप ठसठशीत आहे. I think we immediately got the meaning.
What is Tuscan?
ठसठशीत कुंकू आहे.
Very prominent.
Prominent.
Yes.
Actually, it also means the same, but is used in different contexts. Like for example, dandanit and khankhanit mean the same thing, but they used in different ways. Like dandanit आवाज आहे आणि khankhanit we use for a
different context.
different context. Huh?
Like Payal.
छम.
Yes.
पिठलं झणझणीत झालंय. Okay. ही मुलगी खूप सुणसुणीत आहे. Active, smart.
Did you understand that?
Yeah.
सुणसुणीत. Huh? Sharp features. So सुणसुणीत in Marathi. Now I'll give you some Hindi words. टिमटिमाना, गडगडाना, कड़काना, घी, चरचराना, जगमगाना. So there's a huge list. Now I'll give you an example of the same word in different languages, which again in each language emits its meaning. Like soft. In Hindi, none. And in Marathi, moon. All the words are using different syllables, but they mean the same thing and they give out the meaning. And like for example, harsh. Though the r sound is pretty soft in English, the word harsh is harsh. Still harsh. Okay? And cacophonic. Cacophonic. You don't even have to tell the meaning. So that's
Asterix has this cacophony.
Cacophonic, yes.
Then gargle, clap, zap. All these words in English also, and you can just go on. It's endless. Okay? So what we saw till now about language is that words emit their own meanings. most of the times we have to just be a little more sensitive and go by context and sound, both. And sometimes, when we read, we don't get the, we get the meaning but not the pronunciation. It has happened to me. I used to say poignant. I loved the word and I used it also many times as poignant. And then I heard somebody used it and I realized, oh, it's poignant, not poignant. So your reading gets reinforced when you interact. So that's how language is.
This podcast, okay, really good. Podcast, because they are read by the artist, the book is read and all that. And it's good.
Yeah.
Much better than TV. That distracts
Yes.
the person.
Only listens. Yeah, audiobooks are becoming very popular. Okay. There is a French critic, Hippolyte. I studied it long back, and these 3 words, maybe they are musical, so they stayed with me. Race, milieu and moment. He said, every piece of art or whatever, everything in life is related to race, milieu and moment. So the race you're born in, the genetics, something that is inherent to you. So as a race, we have certain characteristics, and it could be physical, mental, emotional, everything related to our geography also. Then the next would be the environment and the culture that you're brought up in. Okay, I remember reading and then I was thinking about it also. People may say that there was no India before 1947, and I have strong disagreements to that, because we can give millions of examples of how we have connected in so many ways. Like for example, any Indian, be it of any caste, dharma, religion, whatever, if we did this, they would know this is tradition. No matter what religion or where they belong to in India, they would know. So these are commonalities, we cannot dismiss them. Similarly, there is one word, and I'm sure there is a word in every language for that, is kharkata. Juta. Huh? But kharkata means slightly something different from juta, that's what I believe. I think there is some word which some Gujaratis had told me. In Gujarati also there is a similar word. What is left around the plate?
Engili. We call it engili. That juta, there's no such word in the West.
Because that culture doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Because that culture doesn't
They
exist.
learned the juta, they say no. Because
See, they drink water from a bottle by touching the lips, and most Indians would not do that. Most Indians will not do that, because it's so ingrained in us. We would never kick a book. Impossible for us to step over a book and walk. I would be fascinated, because in school sometimes some of my friends would put their feet on the suitcase bag which we used to carry, and they would, move it. And I would keep fascinatedly looking, how are you stepping on the suitcase? It used to upset me.
put sign for your size on a newspaper. After that
Yeah.
we do that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Send it for your food.
Sometimes when I'm using raddi, and suddenly during Ganpati times, every newspaper seems to be carried. I get very irritated with that. I see a Ganpati, I can't use this as raddi. So what do? I don't know how to delete the pictures of gods which everyday people keep sending on WhatsApp. Then my sister told me, shut up, your phone will be clogged. Just delete. What do you do with so many pictures? But that's our culture. Okay? And I can tell you one very interesting kissa which happened with Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So, he had British friends and they learned Marathi. He learned Marathi and he came to Tilak and he said, Ata tumchi Marathi yete. I know your Marathi very well. So Tilak said, don't be too sure. Come over for lunch to my house, and they went near his vada. And outside there was one, there were huge joint families at that time, and there was one little girl standing outside his home, his vada. And he just looked at the girl and he said, Vada? He told this man first, she is my granddaughter. And then he told her, Vada, he tula bagaila aale. The girl blushed and then she ran and said,
different meaning
see, if you translate it, he has come to see you. Which is perfectly, see you, meet you, means the same thing in English. But every Indian, and this can be translated in every language, and every Indian is going to understand it.
To see you for marriage.
Yes.
देखने आए हैं
Like, देखने आए हैं.
लड़की देखने आए हैं
It means मिलने very different from dekhne. And we never use it for, we never interchangeably use it. So he said, that means you still don't know my Marathi. And he proved it to him. He asked him, do you know what happened in that interaction? He couldn't say. So he said, wait, you have to still be acculturized. You have to be part of my culture to understand. Okay, then moment. The moment that you're born in. See, a Salman Khan becoming popular in 1990, in the 1940s would have been a sidekick. See, because at that time the heroes were just slim and trim. Okay, they did not have those bodies. Those were meant for the side roles. So if Salman Khan was born when six packs became popular, and that's why he became a hero. 4 decades back,
They didn't have to dance those days.
huh?
Neither
They didn't have to dance also, and heroes were more normal, but they were slim and tall perhaps. But he would not have, or even a Sylvester Stallone would not have made it to the top in Hollywood during the times of Gregory Peck and all. He would have been some bodyguard or something. Isn't it? So the time that you're born in, so many
Our heroes Salman really have any
normal.
Anorexic.
Anorexic. Now they are anorexic.
That very प्यारी है
and they
He
give
didn't
a
have, he was
complex
thin, he was patla sa na.
really a complex. No, that's the same topic.
Yeah.
Even the heroines, like what that Savitri or Veena Kumari and all,
They were normal. They were normal.
Yeah.
Now we have to tell people that this is normal. Okay.
They were fat, they had big asses.
Yeah.
Asha Parekh.
Asha Parekh.
Yeah.
She's considered as beautiful at that time. Okay. Then there are words which go out of use. New words get added, and words acquire a new meaning with time, and they become tasteless, or they can become more fine. Of course, we are now on a slippery slope. We are definitely going down. I mean, if I have to just look at my own life, and these are words I've collected just randomly. I had a book in my house called Character, Samuel somebody. I'm sure it was very popular when we were kids. I'm sure it must have been there in your homes also. But today the word character is just not used, because it is something intrinsic. It is about being, living a rough life. It's about facing difficulties stoically.
Rigidity.
No, it's about facing difficulties stoically.
Integrity.
Huh?
Integrity.
Yeah, of course, integrity too. Also, facing life with more stoicism only. Also, courage, yes. And upright and not.
Honesty, so many things.
Yes, and not about the outside as much as the inside. Okay, and then when I started teaching spoken English long back, suddenly I found that people were asking me, would you like to take personality development classes? And I said, why? What does it mean? I did take afterwards, but I suddenly realized that the word character had morphed into personality, because it was all about outer
persona, external.
I think it is also because when we became prosperous as a country in the 90s, the middle class became, could afford so many more things and all, we brought up our children to become soft. Reading went out of regular life, and somewhere, that character is now not needed only, perhaps we can say, because everything is at the beck and call. Why do you want to be hardy? I mean, why do you want your child to learn to climb a cliff? Because he doesn't have to climb a cliff. That's perhaps the logic. So you don't make them hardy. You yourself are pretty soft, and you bring your children up to be very soft. And then that word character went out of use, and then personality, makeover. So you can change the shape of your teeth and your body and everything. Your hair can be of any texture, color that you want it to be. Absolutely. So it became more about exterior grooming. Another word which I have a big problem with, prosperity. So because that also there's a logic. People who own land were prosperous because they were prosperous through agriculture. So it's about having food on the table. And the bounty of the earth. Then it became riches, because the businessmen became rich. So it was not about prosperity anymore, it was about riches. Then we used to use the word well-being. It is there in old novels and all. Now it's all about health.
Wellness.
Wellness, health. Wellness is still a better word. I think somebody has found a better word. But health. So, you know, you cough twice a day, you go to a doctor, he says get 10 tests done. So it's all about health. But it's not about well-being. And I also have this problem. The first time when I heard that word, oh, she has an attitude. First it was said negatively, now what an attitude. Then you know that negative quality got a very nice ring to it. And kindness went out of the window. Oh, she has attitude, you know, she will be successful. Or he has attitude, that's why he's successful. So you learn to ride roughshod over people. And perhaps, so the meaning changed because society became competitive. So kindness is an old-fashioned word. I don't hear anybody using it anymore. I've hardly heard anybody use the word kind in recent times. So even then the word usage also. This is we have a Parsi friend and we had a big laugh about it. I asked him, how are you? And he said, I'm good. I said, Ronnie, of course I know you're good, but I'm asking you, are you fine? Because we were taught, isn't it, in school? And our teachers would say, okay, if someone asks you, how are you? What do you say? I'm fine, thank you. And then when suddenly people started saying, I'm good, what do you mean you're good?
Not only that, if you ask these people coming from US, will you have some tea? No, I'm good.
Yes.
I know. I'm good.
Thank you. She said no, thank you. Yes.
You are offering tea and that person says, no, I'm good.
You know, during Shakespeare's time, the adjective awful meant what we mean as awe-inspiring today.
Oh. Just the opposite.
Just the opposite. And the first time, again, these are actual experiences because you're sensitive to language, being a language teacher. And when you see it used differently, you know, it remains. So one of my friends' teenage daughter, somebody served her something and she was sitting in my house and that it was a dish. And she looked at it, wow, how awesome, she said. This is about, I can even tell the date, about 20 years back. And when she said awesome, I was so stunned. How can food be awesome? And awesome is a word you use in such a, it's a very different kind of more serious concept. And she used it and then I saw everybody was using that word awesome.
Taste.
Taste. Everything is awesome.
Taste is awesome.
Anything, any little child comes and says poetry, wow, how awesome. He just says Baba Black Sheep when he's 2 years old. Wow, how awesome, and that word has become, it's just lost that quality which it had once. Okay, then new words get added. Selfie. Selfie is a new word. Okay, awesome. Then
Another word which is very common is sexy.
sexy. Everything is sexy.
Right.
But you know, oh, sexy. There's
Anything they will say. For food also, oh, sexy.
Then I had this very lived experience about spoken language, you know, and I think I learned more than my students in the spoken language class. I was every day thinking about how do you teach somebody to speak. See, I can dance, but I can't teach you to dance. You have to get up and dance.
Yeah.
So it was every day a struggle for me. How do you make them talk? And especially English, which has such a so much of ego, pride, and everything, status associated with it. So people would not want to open their mouths or in the class. But I met a cross section of the Indian population, and I was enriched by it. So once, you know, it was an afternoon class, and mostly homemakers, and a few students who had early lectures. And they were good friends, and I reached a few minutes late, and there were two boys would sit on 2 seats, and the bags were there, but they weren't there. So I just said, where are these 2 boys? So one of the Marathi ladies over there, she wouldn't experiment with English, so she answered in Hindi. मैम उनको पिक्चर देखनी है तो टिकट निकालने गए. So I nodded my head, and there was a lady from Agra sitting there who grew up on chaste Hindi. क्या बोला? क्या? So I said, टिकट निकालने गए हैं. So she was looking very perplexed and quite upset. She thought, I know Hindi and what is this new Hindi here? So then I explained to her that she kind of understood. He can identify because he's also from the north. So then she said, अच्छा, तो ऐसा कहिए ना कि टिकट खरीदने गए. I said, oh my
Marathi.
And being a Maharashtrian, I went home, I was thinking about it. Then I realized that in Marathi we say ticket kadhaila.
Correct.
So that kadhaila,
It's translated.
that's why Bombay Hindi is not bad Hindi. It's just Marathi people thinking in Marathi, talking in English. My father, my grandfather, all their lives, if they met somebody from the north, they would say, "Tum kab aaya?" And as I grew up, I understood that "tum" is not the right way to talk.
Yeah.
But in Marathi, "tumhi" is "aap." So for them, when they were using the word "tum," it was "aap." So you start understanding the logic behind. Then also the same Agra lady said, "क्या है कोई तमीज नहीं है बम्बई वालों को." I said, "क्यों क्या हुआ?" अरे हम लोग नए नए आए हैं, नई नई दोस्ती बनाई है, एक का फोन आया, कोई गुजराती था, उसने हमको, "अरे आ जाओ ना खाना खाने आज रात को, क्या कर रहा है?" So ऐसे थोड़ी कोई खाने के बुलाता है. Oh, I said, Bombay people are very simple. We are hard working. We have no time for niceties. We are busy catching trains. So we mean it. When we say "Aja," we are not informal. We are not being condescending or we mean it. So she said, "Okay, thank you so
The other
much."
thing North Indians find is, ask the road here, they'll say, वो light आएगा ना, वहाँ से left मारो.
Left मारो और
वहाँ जाकर right मारो.
हाँ, वहाँ पे मंदिर गिरेगा.
हाँ, लाइट गिरेगा, मंदिर गिरेगा.
पत्ती से
पड़ेगा और गिरेगा.
कितने में गिरा?
कितने में गिरा? Yeah, because in Marathi we talk like that.
कितना पड़ रहा?
Gila padla, exactly. Okay, so our passive vocabulary is huge. But if we are experimenting with words and if we are sensitive to words, we make that fine difference and we choose the correct word. So to make our passive vocabulary more active, obviously we have to experiment with it. To make language more aesthetic also, while speaking as well as writing, of course, punctuation. There's one wonderful book, and maybe you all are already familiar with it. It's called Eats, Shoots and Leaves by Lynn Truss. You must have. Such a delightful book. It's like reading a peppy novel. It's so beautifully written, but it's about a dry subject like punctuation. It's a beautiful book, and it's about, any of us progress in any field, we want perfection there. So as language teachers, we are all the time correcting everybody's dots and crosses and I's. So then, if somebody doesn't put the apostrophe in the correct place, we get agitated. So, and it seems it happens in England also now. And that's what she's moaning about. That you may think of it as something dispensable, but it's not. When we use it, the meaning can completely change. Okay? So, the finer we become, I think we start using language a little more consciously. And of course, now the way we use language, tone, roughness, if you become more sensitive, then you become less and less suited to today's world. If you see TV debates, you want to run away. The kind of, dismissive language, very rough,
SMSs too.
very direct, very
All that
dismissive,
SMSs you do.
loud.
Everything is short
Yes.
form and no punctuation, nothing.
So then now what is the highest form of beauty in language then? Where would we want to go if at all we were progressing and we would say, okay, this is the place to read as a language person? Huh? What is that perfect place perhaps in language? We have been speaking about it.
Simplicity.
No. Simplicity, yes, of course, but maybe I'm wording my question wrong.
I don't understand your question.
I'll try to
I
word
say
it.
Sanskrit, it's
Ha.
an amazing language.
Yes.
Really, it is the mother of
Yes.
the kind of the way that the brevity and yet at each word means so many.
Yeah.
So I would say something that puts the meaning across very clearly and also very beautiful.
Okay, so you've come to the answer. That's poetry. What is oft said but ne'er so beautifully expressed. So that's what that sometimes you read a poem and you say, "Hey, I also thought of this same point, but I didn't put it so beautifully." Okay? And there are numerous theories about poetry. My most favorite, maybe because I've taught it, and there are many theories, more complicated ones, but this one line of Wordsworth, somehow it found found an echo in me. So when I used to teach, I used to always tell students, have some idea. It could be any idea about what poetry is before you start learning poetry or before you start appreciating it. So this sentence, spontaneous overflow of powerful emotion, it's a very common. But see, understanding the word meaning is one thing, but understanding what exactly he meant, the depth of that line is very interesting. Now, I'm sure different poets would have different opinions about it, but it found an echo in me. And I had listened to one Marathi poet long back. He said, first of all, if you have to be a poet, you should have the poetic heart, the passion. So, we were a young group sitting, so he said, if you have moods, no, then you're likely to become a poet. If the weather affects you, if the mental atmosphere affects you, if you get affected very quickly by what's happening in your environment,
Socially, what is happening?
everything. If you're sensitive, then you're prone. You have a predisposition to becoming a poet sometime in your life. But along with that, obviously there are a whole lot of qualities. Now, it has been generally agreed. Now, this is a very general statement, and you can definitely disagree. But they say that the highest form of art is poetry. And I had read when I was studying psychology years back that they say that the highest IQ is possessed by poets. We would have thought scientists, but it's not. It's poets. Okay, because
Maybe EQ, emotional.
both, I think, both. I had read that they calculated Coleridge's IQ, and they found that it was 200, which is far ahead of genius level also.
Yeah.
So why is it that? See, because in music you don't need words. Now words are fraught with concepts, very complicated. You need not just words but expression power, which is something else completely. Then what else do you need in poetry? Expression power along with
Imagination.
Feelings.
yeah, powerful feelings, as he says in that line. And what else is most core to poetry?
Imagination.
Rhythm, musical quality. So, word power, emotion, IQ, rhythmic sense of rhythm. I'll give you one fantastic example. This I had heard as a child from my dad, and then I read it in the introduction to Tagore's biography by Khanolkar. So in that, there's a very interesting incident. It seems Tagore wrote his Gitanjali first in Bengali, and then he was, of course, such a savant. He translated it into English. But being modest, he went to England, and he thought, let me show it to somebody who's an Englishman and who's a writer. I don't know who it was. He showed it to him, and that man made many changes. He said, yeah, this is wonderful, but this you can change a little and retweak. Now, W.B. Yeats was a great fan of Tagore. So Tagore in his modesty thought, let me first show it to someone else, then go to Tagore. So, sorry, Yeats. So he showed it, he made the changes very humbly, and then he went to Yeats. Yeats read the poem and he was blown. He said, wow, what poetry is this? Then he just looked at him and he said, but you know what? In that flow, of your beautiful poetic stream, I can see some rocks in the way. So he said, just change that. So his curiosity was aroused, and he said, show me the places. And those were the same places which that other. Now see, from one poet to another, you see how their minds must have matched and how he understood. That is why, the placing of words and all, when people just compose 4 lines here and there and they feel that it's poetry, you feel like telling them, just wait, hold on. What is great poetry is something else. Okay, and then of course, history was made when he got the Nobel Prize. Audiences were spellbound when he read out. Okay, so that is history. So if we have to go to spontaneous overflow of powerful, I can give some interesting examples. First of all, you have to have that experience. Now, a very, very passionate experience first. Emotionally, it has to be a very intense experience. And obviously, our senses operate in unison. Now, I can give you a very personal example. When I was a child, I hated school, and I remember crying every day. And one particular day I remember very well. I was maybe just 3 or 2.5. And that lady was strumming the piano in the background. And she was playing, maybe it was Christmas, so she was playing that "Baby in a manger, don't pray for the dead" or something. And my father was dropping me and the teachers were pulling me, making me sit, and I saw my father disappear and I was howling. And till today, when I hear that hymn, "Away in a Manger," I almost come to tears. Because that association of the song, because I was emotionally aroused. I may have been just 3, but all my senses were in tune. And that "Away in the Manger" was like a background to my depression. So till today, and I have had this experience several times. Sometimes, I smell some soap which I haven't smelled in years, and this is something related to my childhood. So you walked into somebody's house and you smelled that soap, and that association remains. Now you distance yourself from that experience after many, many years, but it gets triggered by something that has happened. So it could be a song, it could be a smell, and if we, like ordinary human beings like us, maybe the emotion comes, and if you have a friend with you, you share it. "Oh, you know this song," but if you're a poet, in raw form, that poetry comes out. Okay, and I think I can illustrate with Wordsworth's poem, and that last line of his famous daffodils: "Oft when on my couch I lie, in patent or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of sun." So he saw the daffodils decades ago. Then he's lying on his couch, he's ill. Okay, and maybe he saw a picture and the thoughts got triggered and the poem came. So then he immediately wrote. But did it immediately come down as a poem? No. Then he worked on it. And in the British Council, I had actually seen John Keats' workbooks. "A thing of beauty is a joy forever." Such a beautiful, such a simple line. You feel, what's so great about it? He had scratched it and rewritten for pages and pages, before he got that absolute perfect rhythm. So it came out in molten form, then it was given shape, and then when oft when on my couch. You say when oft and it's not going to come correct. You have to say "Oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude." So he's alone now. Now that word tranquility comes in. That poem is going to come in tranquility, not if there's a cacophony around you. So you're sitting in a fish market and the poem can't come. So the trigger is the experience. If you see it from too close, you can't write the poem the next day because it's too close. That distance comes with time. And then if it is, your senses open your mind, the poem comes. This is one explanation of poetry which I love. There are so many aesthetics of poetry which poets have written, writers have written, how it happens, to them. It's not something that is immediate. It has to have some kind of background. Okay, even another example I can give is, I used to read Trixie Weldon. Anybody here who used to read Trixie Weldon? Something like Enid Blyton.
Around
Yeah, she was a detective, 13-year-old detective. I also must have been 12 or 13. And it was summer holidays, and I think our generation was always with a book under the arm. We got up to brush our teeth and the book was there. So, that we were called for lunch. I think it must have been 12 o'clock. So I came down that rickety stairs. My grandparents always had the radio on, and there was one Marathi song going on. "वेळ झाली भर माथ्यानं, माथ्यावर तळते ऊन," and it was 12 o'clock only. So the sun has come up in the sky and it's very hot and intense. And the poet is saying, oh dear mind, dear heart, don't wilt. And the song was playing in the background, and Trixie Weldon, the detective in the story, is about to go to school after some holidays, and she's depressed. Now till today when I hear that song, I go back there. Okay, so powerful emotion recollected in tranquility. Okay, now I'm just going to quote just a few poems, and I'm going to end on a fun note. How times take lyrics and songs. Okay. Now, there is this very beautiful song. I think that why we relate to poetry is because something echoes. No? Now, wo subah kabhi to aayegi. I think every one of us can relate to it in different
Lot
ways.
of Bollywood songs.
Oh, they are very beautiful.
Because it was so much part of our
Yes.
growing up.
Yes.
So any song, it does ring a bell.
Yes,
somewhere.
everything. Then I just put down some. Then I remembered some abhangs. And why are the saint poets so loved? Not only were they great and compassionate and obviously divine, but they had a way of, Sant Tukaram.
What's the Vaina Bai?
Yeah, all of them. Even Sant Raseshwari, who actually has written such sensitized Marathi, but what he writes finds an echo in every
Kabir also.
Kabir, everyone, all our great saint poets. So this, Samsara Dukha Mula, Chahukade Ingal. Samsara in Marathi means householder's life. So Samsara is full of dukha. And all around us, there are embers of fire. So, and then there's, in our family, all people I know normally quote this. If there is some problem, samsara dukha mula. Or, there is another one which is of Sant Tukaram only. Roja uthoniya dukhacha prasanga. Every day you get up and you are battling.
Some problem.
Yuddhacha prasanga, not dukhacha, yuddhacha. Every day there is some battle waiting for you. So, sometimes you call up, and you say, that day only I told something to my nephew and he said, Roja uthoniya, yuddhacha prasanga. So, these, when you know that even those great people are suffering like you feel, okay, it's okay for us also to suffer. And then I think I will go to the new ones and I will end on a better note with the old ones. Now, the new idea of romance. When I first heard some of them, I was so shocked. This one really caught me otherwise. Kambak Ishko. And said in a very westernized, Kambak Ishko. My God, it's so ishq and kambak. And see the lines after that also. It says how people look at romance today. कब आता है कब जाता है, meaning आने जाने वाला romance है. It's not about you choose somebody and it lasts a lifetime. No. Then there's another one, चलो इश्क लड़ाई, and that song is also very
I love your selection.
dancing on it is also very catchy and silly. Then I actually referred, because I don't know these songs, so I went to YouTube. I said Govinda's Ganas.
Yes.
Then this is another one. हुस्न है सुहाना, इश्क है दीवाना, रूप का खजाना, आज है लुटाना, आके दीवानी मुझे सीने से लगा, गोरिया चुराना मेरा जिया. No sense at all.
Or sensitivity.
No sensitivity, nothing. Then तेरे प्यार का रस नहीं चखना वो मखना. It is so, she frowned naturally. It is such an assault on the senses. Okay, and then now we have to go back to I'm going to end on a good note. This is something which is very close to my heart. तुम ही मेरे मंदिर, तुम ही मेरी पूजा, तुम ही देवता हो. Now feminists are going to see, she thinks of that man as God. Wrong. This is utter rubbish, because there are equal number of male songs where they are worshipping the woman. So that love is godly. That was the whole idea then, and I think in India we connect everything with sacredness. So even the love between a man and a woman is seen as sacred. So you need not say, feminists need not immediately.
This concept.
Like maybe 100 years ago, the husband used to call the wife Devi.
Yes, that is very much a message. And I always talking about this. No, that is also not really.
Maybe the influence of other movies.
Now what they call it?
All that is England was called Swami also.
Yeah.
Husband was called Swami.
Yeah, but then see, among so many societies in Maharashtra also, among the Marathas, she would know men call their women aap.
Yeah.
It's normal for them to say
Yes, yes.
हाँ.
Yes.
Even the children, they
say हाँ.
that's how they
No, in
teach
Marathi
us.
it's not common. That's why it's uncommon. In Marathi we don't say aap. Aap in the north is common. It's used for everyone. But among Maharashtrians it's not common. Yet they call their wives aap.
Aho jaho.
Highest respect.
हाँ. So then there's ऐसा न तेरा होगा मुझ पर. That is the man singing. That is the man singing.
Or that line, mein palko ki chhav.
Yes.
I was explaining it to an American friend. How, what poetry? I mean, let me stay under the shadow of your eyelashes. Eyelashes. Palko ke-
I think it comes from Kalidas and all.
In a western, in a hot country, that shade and
Yes.
very important.
Yes.
Fly on a hot day.
Fly on mosquito under the shade.
पलकों की छाँव में रहने दो.
So all these beautiful Abhina, Jao, Chonkar, it's all in the male voice. You know that I need you. So that's where I'm going to end on that lovely note of beautiful lyrics. So that's what aesthetics in language. I just tried to, such a vast topic, we can go on for days and days, and I just tried to continue. Thank you so much, Yona, such a wonderful topic.